Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, one of the biggest stars in the world of children's books lives right here in Northampton and has a new show on Main Street benefiting Grow Food Northampton. We take you into the R. Michelson Galleries and talk with Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus author and illustrator Mo Willems.
Plus barrels and barrels of barramundi at the Turners Falls Industrial Park, where General Manager Spencer Goen of Great Falls Aquaculture shows us around one of the largest livestock farms in the area, and I get to feed the fish. But first, the troubles of Capitol Hill.
Did you catch that eclipse on Monday?
I did. I had just landed in Washington, and a couple of young people who were, I guess, working one of the restaurants or whatever, the fast food places that, were standing in the middle of the terminal where you can see outside, and they had those little glasses, and they offered if I wanted to use them, and I did. I get to see the eclipse, so that was nice.
You couldn't take like a congressional jet to the Path of Totality to check it out?
I did not, no. I was on an American Airlines flight to D.C., so.
Those aren't available? That's not one of the congressional perks?
There's no more congressional perks now.
Oh well. I guess that career path is done for me then.
I know.
Time for our weekly check-in with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, Worcester's own Congressman Jim McGovern. The hot news today and all this week has to do with the hot state of Arizona and the Arizona Supreme Court delivering a landmark decision in giving the go-ahead to enforce an 1864 law that bans nearly all abortions. You tweeted, "Do I have whiplash? Didn't Trump just say he wanted to leave abortion up to the states? Now that Arizona turned the law back to 1864, he says it shouldn't be up to the states. Trump said it himself. He's proud of ending Roe. He wants a nationwide abortion ban. He owns this." So first off, before we get into the politics of it, do you think this is an issue that should be left up to the states?
No. I mean, people's health care rights should be left up to individual states. I mean, look what just happened in Arizona. I mean, Trump did this. This is what happened when you overturn Roe versus Wade. And really, it's quite appalling. And by the way, it's a pretty extreme thing that's happened in Arizona. But look at the laws in Texas. We go right down the list of states that have imposed these very restrictive laws that have basically denied women their reproductive health care rights. And in some cases have endangered the lives of women. Who in their right mind thinks that we should go backwards? But I really am amused by Trump's, back and forth and all over the place because he's trying to have it all different ways. But the bottom line is that we are talking about this right now because he appointed right-wing Supreme Court justices to the court, lifetime appointments, and they did what he wanted them to do. They overturned Roe versus Wade. And now we're dealing with the fallout.
If a nationwide abortion ban is on the table, if there were a Republican Congress and a Republican in the White House, which could happen at the end of this year, why hasn't the Democratic Party done more in previous incarnations to try to protect abortion rights nationwide using federal law if this is not a state's issue, if this is a rights issue?
Well, I think people thought that Roe would be kind of the law of the land. I mean, basically we wouldn't be in the place that we're in right now. I think in retrospect, we should have figured out ways to enshrine this more clearly into our laws. But I mean, I don't think anybody thought that a president or a Congress would want to turn the clock backwards. And also, you have to have a supermajority to do anything in the Senate. And so the question has always been like, do we have that? And when we did we have a majority in the House? So I mean, you need the House and the Senate and the president to be working together on this. But look, I mean, this needs to be a central issue in the upcoming presidential and congressional race. Do people want to turn the clock back? Do people want to basically rob women of their reproductive rights? I mean, do we want to go after women's health care? Is that really the road that the majority of people in this country want to go down? This is a very big factor in the upcoming election.
And it does seem like it's a losing issue in the upcoming election, which is potentially why Trump seems to be going back and forth on what his opinion is about whose issue this is, a state's issue, a federal issue. Meanwhile, Politico has a headline today, how Biden's campaign plans to pummel Trump on abortion. I know the vice president is heading to Arizona in light of this decision. As of now, I don't think, because there will be a primary in September, you may have a challenger for your House seat in the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts. How big of an issue is abortion for us, your constituents here in the 2nd Congressional District? Is this an issue that is as hot button an issue here as we're hearing it being across the country?
Well, it is an important issue here. I hear about it all the time when I'm doing community meetings or town halls. So it is a big issue, and I think people are also concerned that while Massachusetts is viewed as a progressive state, that if there were a national abortion ban, that would basically trump all the state laws. So while Trump is trying to say, I now want to leave it up to the states, people like Lindsey Graham, a lot of Republicans in the House are saying they still want to pursue a national abortion ban. And if Trump is president, that is what they will push. So, this is an issue that people are concerned about, even in Massachusetts.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, Jim McGovern. We talked last week about Smith College and the occupation of College Hall there and the students that were protesting Smith's support in their endowment for weapons manufacturers that are ostensibly helping Israel in the war in Gaza. They have left their occupation of College Hall. Now they're occupying the Sealy lawn at Smith College. Have you yet heard from the students at Smith or the administration there about this issue that continues on our college campuses, especially even in your district in Northampton?
Yeah, no, I've been following it very closely in the news accounts. I'm in Washington right now, but I have not heard directly from the administration or from the students about what they're doing. But look, I'm a believer in the right to protest and the right to dissent. I think that's a very American tradition. When I was in college, I attended a lot of protests and even engaged in civil disobedience. So I appreciate what they're doing. And this is a serious issue. As I've said to you before, I think it's really important that we find forums in which we can actually talk to one another and have honest discussions because, you don't have to agree on everything to agree on something.
This has been a hot button issue on college campuses apart from Smith College. We heard what went on earlier, the end of last year at Harvard and other places as well. But I know last week, right after we talked, braving the weather that we were facing last week, which seems like 100 years ago now, you were headed to Brandeis University just outside Boston. Their mission statement says that they are, at their core, animated by a set of values that are rooted in Jewish history and experience. You have been vocally outspoken about calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. How was your conversation, your rhetoric around this issue met at Brandeis, that historically Jewish institution, last week?
Yeah, so who I spoke to was they have a program for continuing education for people who are retired. It was a pretty good group. But having said all of that, I thought we had a good conversation on a number of topics, including this. And I should also point out that, many of the people who are demanding a ceasefire, who are demanding an end to the occupation, who are demanding, humanitarian aid be delivered to the people of Gaza, are leading members of our Jewish community here in Massachusetts and across the country. And one of, the critiques they have of what's happening in Israel right now is that Netanyahu's policies, quite frankly, are undermining Jewish values and things that, quite frankly, that they think are values associated with Israel. There's a lot of angst and discontent, in the Jewish community with regard to what Netanyahu's doing. Obviously, people want hostages released. I mean, they're babies, they're elderly people. I mean, there's a desire to make sure that the hostages can be returned to their loved ones as well. So they want a way forward that, quite frankly, is very, very different from the path that Netanyahu is now pursuing.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, keeping it at colleges for the moment. Earlier this week, the president once again tried to renew an effort to end student debt. The proposal, according to the New York Times, would affect 30 million people and would target groups that have hardships in repaying their loans. What do you think about the president's new plan, and what makes this one different than the plan that ultimately failed last time to help to relieve students of their debt?
The reality is the president is right. I mean, we need to find ways to alleviate student debt. I mean, colleges are expensive, and people are accumulating all this debt. They get out of college and they try to pursue a career, trying to find a place to live, which is expensive, all the other things that they got to pay for in life, and then you get this huge debt. And so it's hard to kind of get ahead. The whole point of this is to say it is appropriate to the extent possible to try to make it easier for these young people, and not so young people, quite frankly, to be able to get on with their lives. The people who complain about this, the same people that were totally fine with the federal government for giving their PPP loans during COVID. This is about giving people the ability to be able to succeed and be able to prosper, and that's better for our economy. But I think the president deserves credit for this.
Last time it was blocked by the Supreme Court as the president tried to use the HEROES Act, which was tied in to the national emergency, the COVID pandemic, to waive the student debt. This new plan is using the Higher Education Act, the federal law that regulates student loan grant programs. Does it seem, in your estimation, that this is going to be able to happen this time, or will the Supreme Court ultimately try to overturn this attempt at waiving the student debt?
Who knows with the Supreme Court? I think it's a lousy Supreme Court, and it's one of the reasons why I think we ought to have term limits on Supreme Court justices. I mean, these lifetime appointments allow for the people that we have on this court to be there forever, and so that's another discussion. But who knows?
Did I ever pitch you? I think I pitched you my idea for Supreme Court. Every president during their term, if they have 2 terms, they get to do it twice. Every president appoints a Supreme Court justice, and then they serve out X number of years until they are pushed out by the incoming president's appointment. So every president would get 1 appointment. Wouldn't that just solve everything? It wouldn't be lifetime. It'd be like, you vote for this president, you get this thing. The worst case scenario would be like 36 years that they'd be on there as opposed to 1,000 or whatever. 36 years is a good long time to have any job.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's certainly worth pursuing and figuring out whether that's the best approach.
I'm your constituent, so introduce a bill.
Yeah, but I absolutely think it's something that Congress needs to address because, I mean, again, we began this conversation by talking about what's happening in Arizona. That's happening because of a very politicized Supreme Court that, quite frankly, has an ideological agenda. We ought to be talking seriously and thoughtfully about how we avoid this. I mean, and if you're a conservative out there, you may say, well, I don't want a super liberal Supreme Court.
Right.
There forever either. So we're losing the ability to put statesmen and stateswomen in positions where they can objectively decide matters based on the Constitution and on our laws. And we're getting politicians that are pursuing, these right-wing agendas. And it's really, really quite scary.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, there was more chaos in the House of Representatives, especially from the GOP side of the aisle, where hard-right agitators, according to NBC, backed by the former president, revolted against an attempt to renew a surveillance program that is set to expire next week, and once again throwing House leadership into chaos. This is not a beloved piece of legislation by your side of the aisle, or at least the more liberal-leaning side of your aisle, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, a law that was first approved in the aftermath of the 9/11 attack. The dysfunction in the Congress aside, what's your take on this bill being renewed or not?
Well, I mean, for me to vote for it, I would need to have an amendment passed that would require a warrant in order to surveil any U.S. citizen.
Right. I mean, warrantless wire surveillance was one of the big sticking points for many people.
And we managed to make that amendment in order so that we could have had that debate. I mean, if it had passed, then I could support it. But if it didn't pass, I could not support it. But the Trump objection to this really had nothing to do with any of this. I mean, he imagines that that he was surveilled because of the FISA law, and that's just not the case. But be that as it may, we never even had a chance to debate or vote on it. I mean, they brought down their own rule. This is becoming a pattern here where they can't get anything to the floor. I said to you before, I mean, they're not only bad at legislating, they're bad at not legislating. And we spent, hours and hours and hours and hours in the Rules Committee on this and a bunch of other bills that were part of that rule, only to see what happened yesterday, which was when they brought it to the floor. Democrats voted against the rule because there's a lot of bad stuff, in some of the legislation they're bringing. But their own members, the guy on the Rules Committee who managed this rule voted against it. I mean, this is unprecedented. They're unable to function. They are incompetent. And while, a bad FISA bill is something I don't want to see, and I think it would have been defeated if this warrant amendment was not made in order. But, it's really kind of sad to see the House of Representatives not be able to function at all.
The committee that you formerly chaired, that you may chair again, depending on how the elections go in November, is the Rules Committee. And I know that you've always spoken fondly about the current chair of the Rules Committee, Republican Tom Cole, but I read this week that he is now at the gavel of the Appropriations Committee. Right. Does that mean he's no longer the chair of the Rules Committee? And if he's not, who will be the chair of the Rules Committee?
Yeah, so he no longer will be. He's become the chairman of the Appropriations Committee because the current chair, Congresswoman Kay Granger of Texas is ill, and so she's decided to step aside as the chair. So he is assuming that role. And then in the Rules Committee, Dr. Michael Burgess of Texas, who is retiring at the end of the year. The speaker is appointing him rather than trying to find somebody on a more permanent basis. He's justifying appointing Burgess as saying, he's retiring and he served here a while, and so this is a parting gift to him so he can be chair of a committee before he leaves. Dr. Burgess is much more conservative and a hardline Trumper, much more so than Tom Cole. It's going to be an interesting next few months, but you know what? You got to deal with what you got to deal with, and I will do my best to try to find common ground. And when we don't, then we will fight about it.
U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, the ranking member of the Rules Committee for the moment. Congressman Jim McGovern joins us every week. You can always send your questions for the Congressman to us here at thefab413@nepm.org. Thanks as always, Congressman.
All the best. Thanks.
Coming up, we get our feet wet at the 2-acre facility, bringing live barramundi to the rest of the continent at Great Falls Aquaculture, just behind the municipal airport up there.
And next, sketching for charity with author, animator, illustrator Mo Willems at his annual show for charity at R. Michelson Galleries in Northampton.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The artist views his work hung for the first time. We're here at the R. Michelson Gallery on Main Street in Northampton for the annual showing of local hero, New York Times bestselling author and illustrator Mo Willems' annual show here that's always a benefit for a local organization.
That's exactly right.
Before we talk about the local organization that this is a benefit for, what's the theme of the show, Mo Willems?
This exhibition is based on my annual sketchbook this year, and it's called 100 Doodles.
Are there actually 100 doodles?
There are
101.
There are 101.
It starts at 0. I noticed this already.
Exactly. It starts at 0. I did the 100, and then on the back cover, I did the final 100.
Why, if it's an annual sketchbook, aren't there 366, given that this is a leap year?
It's been very nice to be on your show, Monty. 100 is a lot. 100 is a lot. 100 is a lot.
100 is a lot.
100 is a lot. So, so I've been doing this sketchbook. I think this is year 31. And I've always said it's a 50-year project, maybe a 40-year project.
Okay.
And so this year was a year where I was like, I just can't come up with anything that, usually it's something I don't get to do, or it's maybe more emotional or something like that. And what I realized was I was stuck, like maybe we all are sometimes. And the way to get unstuck is
Fiber.
How long are these segments?
They're a lot longer now that we're on public radio.
It's like the Spanish Inquisition. No one was expecting.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
So it's exercises. And it's sort of practice what you preach. I always say just exercise, just doodle, just do something. So I came up with this exercise. What can I make out of 100 numbers? And it was freeing. That's the thing, is just the physical act of doing is freeing. And from there, I decided to go back, and we've made some snack doodle videos where I've done the entire alphabet, and I've done numbers 1 through 31. Different drawings, more improvisational. Again, this year's sketchbook was a inadvertent release.
What is snack?
What is snack doodles?
What is snack
so
doodles?
You remember, this is a local show, so you remember in Massachusetts we had a pandemic.
Oh, just here.
Yes.
It was an epidemic.
And during that time, I did a couple videos called the Lunch Doodle videos, where I drew and I walked around my studio. And so on the 4-year anniversary, we decided to make a bunch of shorter videos of just drawing exercises called Snack Doodles that are available on my YouTube channel. Can't believe I'm saying that, but there we go. On the Mo Willems Workshop YouTube channel.
We're going to talk about that
Which
in a
is
minute.
the studios put them up. So every week there's a different sort of exercise where I'm playing with a letter and turning it into something. And I'm hoping that you will, and maybe turn it into something different than what I did.
Do people ever send you what they've made working alongside your videos?
I have seen some stuff, and it's really great. And of course, I I love the copying, but I love even more the not copying, the sort of growing out of that.
Did you ever watch Captain Bob? Was that on when you were a kid?
No.
It was like you wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, and there was this old fisherman dude. It must have been a regional Boston because he had a super strong Boston accent. I should say a wicked strong Boston accent. And you would just draw along with him, and then you would send him your drawings, and then he'd like maybe show your drawing on TV.
Hello, everyone. Captain Bob here again on Nature World.
I love that.
It was so crazy. You're the new Captain Bob. So that's
Wow,
what I'm saying.
I don't
You
know.
could be Captain Mo.
I don't even know that I'm a captain
You could
yet.
be
Private
Lieutenant Mo Willems.
Lieutenant. I could be lieutenant, but I do draw with my right hand.
What might be lost, because this is a non-visual medium, is that when you say you were inspired by the numbers, you draw a number,
Yes.
and then whatever that number looks like, you turn into a sketch around it, which is interesting because you've always, I've seen you give workshops to kids especially, teaching them how to draw and to doodle, and you basically say, if you can draw
If you can write your name,
if you can
that's
write your
right.
name, you can do anything.
That's exactly right. Well, and if you write your name, basically, letter is a shape, and your name is a bunch of shapes in the right order, and a cartoon or a doodle is a bunch of shapes in the right order. I think for me, what the trick was not falling back on the same thing every time. So sometimes it's a full character, sometimes it's part of a character, sometimes it's a design. Here in the 96, it's a set of word bubbles.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I like 51, this unicorn. Here, 32 is a pregnant lady and with a baby.
Pushing the carriage, so the pregnant belly is the 3, the lump of the 3, and the 2 is the baby carriage.
You got a dragon.
I have a dragon. I've got someone eating ice cream. I've got puppies. I have a minor, a literal minor.
Not
someone
under 18-year-old
underage,
person,
right.
yes.
You've got your name.
You've got them too probably somewhere.
Yeah, so here you can see the title is using only numbers for those letters. So it looks like the word doodles, but there's a number 100 inside of it.
We're speaking with Mo Willems. We're at the R. Michelson Gallery on Main Street in Northampton, where his annual Doodles or art exhibit is here, and it's always a fundraiser. So you can go and purchase this art, and it goes to support a cause. And again, we'll talk about Grow Food Northampton and the cause in just a little bit. I'm wondering, the shape of the numbers inspired a lot of the doodles. Are any of these inspired by what might have been going on the day you decided to draw that number, like something that was more actually happening to you?
Wow.
So I know you've done a lot of work at the Kennedy Center with orchestras, so I see that,
Yes.
like number 23 is a wacky wild conductor with hair, yeah.
I don't know that it's been that specific, but yes, I am doing stuff with the Kennedy Center. I'm just about to do some new stuff. I've got a workshop coming up in September. We're going to do a show called Mo at the NSO, where it's going to be a lot of very, very silly music. And the idea is, you remember Leonard Bernstein hosted a series of concerts for the youth. So imagine a show like that hosted by someone who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
It's just like our show.
But I will say one of the things that often I find with nonfiction stuff for kids is it assumes that kids don't know anything. And then we just tell you. And this is the opposite. Kids understand how music makes them feel. So I'm hopefully going to let the audience tell me what's going on rather than me telling the audience what's going on. And we're very excited because I'm co-hosting with Ludwig von Beethoven, who looks very much like the pigeon, but won't admit that he is, in fact, the pigeon.
Don't let the pigeon drive an orchestra.
That's exactly
Absolutely
right.
let the pigeon drive the orchestra.
The beneficiary of this Doodles exhibit here at the R. Michelson Gallery is Grow Food Northampton. I happened to go there the day after these epic floods last July and talk to a bunch of the farmers and people working with Grow Food Northampton. This is the 8th annual benefit exhibition. Why Grow Food Northampton? Why is that something that was important to you? And I'm assuming to your wonderful wife, Cher Willems, who I know is really involved in lots of food justice.
That is exactly right. So Cher does a lot of work with food. We think a lot about our neighbors. These doodles are made possible by a full tummy. There's no way that I could find anything in these shapes that was interesting if I wasn't well fed. Mm-hmm. You know, we were talking about the early days of the pandemic. One of the things that did happen was there was some legislation and some things changed so that a lot of people who would have been very food insecure were less so. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those laws are ending. I have a real concern that food insecurity is going to become greater again. So we wanted to put our dollars, but also to talk about that now, to think of it before it gets worse, to start thinking about how we're going to handle less access to food for folks. And we think that Grow Food Northampton is doing a lot of interesting stuff on a lot of interesting levels. I mean, in terms of education, in terms of what they're doing with food, in terms of land use, all of that stuff is really pretty awesome. And this is just a very small way to say thank you.
It's a great way to support it because you can get this original artwork from none other than Mo Willems.
And they're wonderful.
Yeah, they're great. They're a lot of fun.
You've given the reasons for choosing Grow Food Northampton. Last year it was Empty Arms. How do you choose which charities? Is it always share choosing which charities?
You just asked me how to share choose which charities?
I said, is it always share choosing which charities?
I feel it's a random process, I guess, on some level. It is the two of us talking about what has mattered to us in the last year and what we think is going to matter in the coming year. Look, we're only a drop in the bucket. We're trying to do what we can, and we're just trying, if we can, to remind folks that we have neighbors. And when we see our neighbors, I think we are reminded that we live in a neighborhood. And I think it behooves us to do the best that we can for our neighbors.
It's worth noting that you and Cher have been tremendously generous for the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts, which is mothership hunger when it comes to taking care of our neighbors like that. So thank you publicly once again.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It really is the least we can do. Again, anything that I do that is creative, this gallery has got tons of artists, really beautiful work. Anybody who's making stuff that makes you stop and think and go, wow, they probably did that on a full stomach.
Can I drive the bus? No, no!
On the way, the pigeon comes to life online. We'll hear about the brand new Mo Willems workshop and more of what they'll get up to this year.
And fish, fresh fish. They grow them, we buy them right from our backyard at Great Falls Aquaculture.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Piggy.
It is worth noting that not just you, Mo Willems, as an author, illustrator, especially for kids, is here. You can go see some of the more surreal paintings of Dr. Seuss.
Right.
All of the local artists, illustrator community, Tony Dieter Lizzie, Jarrett J. Krasaska, are all showing here, as well as a bunch of other amazing artists, sculptures.
And I would say, if you're interested in how picture books are made or interested in wanting to make a picture book, come see this original art, because it will scare you by how hard it is. It will slow you down, but will also give you the determination that not only can you do it, but picture book art is one of the few entertainment industries left where you can be an individual, where anybody's work that's great is great because they are showing who they are in the way that they are. That's really remarkable.
I love that you have to go see your drawings in a safe, though. That makes it extra
Yes,
scary.
that's my-
Like, what, are they going to lock me in there?
That's my safe space.
Mo Willems' sketchbook, the 8th incarnation of it here at R. Michelson Gallery, a benefit for Grow Food Northampton. 100 doodles, all based on the numbers between 0 and 100.
If you want to see a number, if there's a number that's special to you,
If you guys are really us, what number are we thinking of?
you're only saying that because it's a year of your birth, I'm sure.
Is it? It was my number in football, but that was for the same reason.
I am sure that Paul or anyone.
I already
in the
know that looks like an
gallery
alien because I
would be-
saw it on
right.
you actually,
Here it is.
is this available, Paul, this poster for people too, or no? Oh yeah.
Ah,
there's also,
there we go, yeah.
there is
I
a
love
giant,
it.
there is a poster that's all 101
But
numbers.
there's a book. There's the sketchbook with all of the pictures in
Yes.
it, which is a little more accessible if
yeah.
you want to see it on a
Right.
handheld scale.
Yeah.
Well, the sketchbook is something that, unfortunately, I only send to clients and friends. This is something that I've done now. Is it 31 years? So 31 years.
Well, never mind then. Come be friends with
Yes.
Mo Willems, and then you can have a sketchbook.
I get one. I don't know if it is worth all the hassle of befriending me for a booklet that is 32 pages. I think the cost-benefit analysis is you're better off. Come to the gallery, look at the poster. What's fun about this is it's simple. Anyone can do it, but it's also challenging. It's fun to look at things in different ways. And not to get you deep about it, but if there's anything that I think we as a culture could do is look at things in different ways as a practice.
Do you ever play Exquisite Corpse?
I have, and I really enjoy that. I think that's a lot of fun. That's a sort of a fun game to do as well.
And this reminds me of that a little bit. So like somebody takes a piece of paper and folds it
and
into
folds it
thirds.
over so you can't see what the other person has done, but you see like kind of the lines where it meets up. So
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
keep
They leave you
going.
2 little lines to play with, and then you play with it, and then you leave the next person 2 little lines.
And squiggles is a great game too. Just to make a squiggle and then to turn it into something. Any of these things are really, really fun, and it's a way to spend time together and to discover yourself. And what I would say to the grown-ups listening, draw with the kids. If you make it cool, it is cool. And you will find drawing is a physicalized form of empathy. So when you are drawing something, you are empathizing with that thing. So when I am drawing number 69 and figuring out it's an alien, I'm actually thinking about that alien. Where did that alien come from? What is that alien doing? And I become more generous to aliens.
There you go. It's a space alien, just in case you were wondering.
With tentacles.
Yeah.
It's real cute.
It is cute. These are all cute. I love, like, there's this Elvis-looking guy at number 15, a very French kind of Phineas and Ferb maybe inspired number 17.
Yes,
I
right.
also
Using the
love that the
triangle.
pigeon made it into the count.
Uh-oh, where's the pigeon?
Very, very good eye. There you go.
The pigeon makes it into everything somehow.
right.
That's the Easter egg you should know about. It's an egg laid by a pigeon.
And the reason that it is that number is that is my favorite number.
Is it?
Absolutely. It's prime. You can split it in any different way. It's always symmetrical. And it's the date of my birthday.
We're with Mo Willems. We've been speaking about the pigeon. That is one of the things you are most famous for, as well as Elephant and Piggy and Knuffle Bunny and myriad other things, including being the education artist in residence at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., despite the fact that you live in Northampton. The pigeon has become three-dimensional.
Yes.
With your YouTube channel, the pigeon is now a living thing.
It's a puppet.
Okay, I didn't want to call the pigeon a puppet in front of you if it was going to be offensive to the pigeon.
No, we have some very talented pigeoneers who are taking the pigeon and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. There's a quick little show called The Pigeon Explains, in which the pigeon explains basic things, but again, much like me, doesn't know what he's talking about.
The Pigeon Explains.
Okay, get out of here. Shoot. Oh, hello. It's me, the pigeon.
So we get real kids to actually explain how to do those things.
I saw the one where the pigeon explains how to kick a soccer ball, and that was hilarious. I mean, it was really, really fun. And this is, not, although you did animation for them, you worked at Sesame Street for a
That's
long time.
right. I was at Sesame Street for a long time, so I do have some experience with puppets and puppeteering. The pigeoneer behind the pigeon is a Sesame guy, young guy named Bradley, unbelievably great with the improvisation. And what I like particularly about this is that this pigeon, A, can do things and I can stay at home.
Nice.
Right. And B, is interacting with real kids. And that I'm seeing less and less on Sesame, and that I love. My favorite bits always were the bits where the puppet and the kids were connecting on some sort of deep level. And it's the same thing with the pigeon. The kids are looking right at the pigeon.
Yeah.
Kids are talking to the pigeon. Kids are giving the pigeon advice, also off camera. Just like, you got to calm down, man. You got to calm down.
They're not wrong.
They're not wrong. So it's been fun, and this has been part of this sort of larger thing of sort of expanding the universe of these characters, but also expanding the spotlight. Like Bradley Freeman is a great pigeoneer. We've got some great writers. We're doing stuff on a larger scale, and I'm really hoping to widen the spotlight to include other artists, but also to include you, the artist, who is interacting with these things. But we've got lots of videos. We're premiering Knuffle Bunny Across America, which I'm very excited about, where we give a Knuffle Bunny to an interesting kid, and they take it for a day and show what their life is like, which is really great.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah. I'm 8 years old. I live in Lake Worth, Florida, and I'll be a professional hockey player when I grow up. Knuffle Bunny, you're on my team.
There are 3 Knuffle Bunny books, and
Yes.
if you're not crying by the end of the third one, you have
no
heart
heart.
or soul.
You have no heart. I hope you would cry. Yeah.
I remember the first time I read that to my then young children, and I just had to stop. Why is Daddy crying all over the book?
It's wet now.
It's so great. Well, that's why it's a slick paper.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, and the concert. We did the comedy concert in
yeah.
San Francisco.
Sketch Fest.
Sketch Fest.
Not your type of sketching usually,
No.
but hey, it's perfect.
But it's all sketching, right?
Right.
It's all loose and quick and has a point, but is fun. And so Sketch Fest, we taped the show, so the whole concert is there. It's got Al Yankovic,
My favorite.
singing a song with made-up words that I made up.
The ice cream truck's broken. On my tears I am choking. There will be no ice cream for me.
And this Mo Willems sketchbook, the 8th incarnation of it here at R. Michelson Gallery, a benefit for Grow Food Northampton, 101 doodles, all based on the numbers between 0 and 100. How long will this be up here, and how long are these available for purchase to support Grow Food Northampton?
These will be up for a month. All of these, even if you decide to buy them in the month of May, our proceeds will still go to Grow Food. Keep putting good in the world.
Yes.
All your good is good. It's all valuable.
Then there was something.
If you're looking to support Grow Food Northampton and want to get one of those posters that we mentioned of all 101 Mo Willems sketch numbers, those are available at the R. Michelson in Northampton.
And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe some of them are even signed.
Cool.
Yeah. Up next, going back to school.
Of fish.
As they bounce around the tanks at Great Falls Aquaculture.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
And I am also unproud of that reference.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
We're in the lobby of Great Falls Aquaculture, which, believe it or not, is one of the biggest animal farms in western Massachusetts, and we're with Jacob Nelson from Seesaw, the local hero. Folks, and what's your name?
Spencer Gowan.
Spencer, you're giving us the grand tour. This is an indoor farm.
Yep, we're an indoor farm. We're about a 2-acre farm that we grow barramundi, which is a Southeast Asian sea bass, and it's all indoors, and it's all recirculating aquaculture. And I guess the value of recirculating aquaculture is that you reuse the water over and over again. So the animals are living in tanks, and then we clean that water and reuse it, so we don't have to use as much water as, say, flow through aquaculture. We also have a good view of everything that's going on in the systems. There's no chances for escapement, and everything's kept at a perfect conditions for the animals.
So what are we looking at? You brought us not first to see the fish, you brought us to see your electrical panel.
Yes, exactly.
We have a lab. Look at all the fun science things.
This is our lab. We do all our water quality testing, so it's really important to keep the water quality really perfect for the fish. So we're testing that every day. We've got a lot of automated systems that are testing water quality and controlling systems water flow. So if I click through this panel, we can see all of the tanks that are out there. You can see the dissolved oxygen level, which dissolved oxygen is really important for life. And
even regular oxygen.
Yes, exactly. And we can see all the wastewater treatment operations. So we're actually a class 2 wastewater treatment plant, even though we're dealing with fish, and it's fish waste, not human waste, but we actually have to have operators here that are certified just like a municipal wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, neat.
That byproduct is not just waste, you're turning that into something else.
Yes, so we collect the waste, and we have a product that we call Fish Brew, which a little later we'll run into Walker, who does a lot with that.
That part made me super excited, especially because it's like seedling season and I have to start thinking about my garden now.
What is Fish Brew? It's not a beer.
It's not a beer. No, don't drink it.
I mean, I guess you could. You could probably make garum with it, sort of.
Yeah. Walker out there basically makes garum. So we'll make a fish hydrolysate fertilizer. So we'll take any of the dead fish or any of the processing waste, so any of the carcasses after we cut off the fillets, that all gets ground up into like a mashed potatoes and then digested with an enzyme into a liquid fish fertilizer. And it's a pretty foul process, but it makes a really great fertilizer for the plants. It's an excellent use of a resource that otherwise would be a waste. That's one product, and then we also have these manure products where we take the concentrated fish manure out of the systems, and we actually blend the waste from this farm together with waste from other farms that are part of the same ownership group. So Blue Stream Aquaculture, it's kind of our same family of aquaculture facilities, and there's a trout grow out about an hour north in New Hampshire and a trout hatchery on Cape Cod. And all three of the farms have very unique microorganisms in the waste, in the concentrated fish manure. So we blend those together to make different products depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for increased fungal count or increased bacterial count or protozoans for your soil. So it's all about the soil microbes. It's not about, people think of, manure is nitrogen and fertilizer value, but the fish manure is actually all about the microbe bringing life back into the soil. It's really popular in the cannabis world because a lot of people are doing indoor grows and then they have to start over with new soil. So they can add in our microbes.
Fish in general is really popular in the cannabis world.
Yeah.
Well, fish with a
Stop
P.
it.
Fish
Stop
with a
it.
PH.
We were just in Vermont. You don't have to do this.
One thing that Great Falls Aquaculture does really well, it's not wasting stuff, and it's finding a way to be efficient with the resources that you're using. Efficient.
Stop. Oh my God. It's going to be like this the whole time.
So many
the
fish
whole
jokes.
time.
I think there's two ways to go when you're a farmer, and that's to be really laissez-faire, and sort of, this works if you're farming outdoors, right? It's just like, let nature do what it's going to do and have a very light hand. We're indoors, so you're controlling the whole ecosystem. We have a pretty heavy hand on these conditions. And so that dictates a lot of what we're about to see and why we're starting our tour in a lab. You have a lot of animals under your care. How many fish are we about to go see in these tanks?
So right now we're about 180,000 fish.
Whoa.
So there's quite.
And these aren't small fish, right?
It ranges. There's small ones. They go up to about 1.5 pounds. That's our harvest size. And our primary market actually is live markets across North America. So they're these specialty live Asian markets that value having a live fish in the tank at the point of sale.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very niche business. And then we process the trout from those other farms here. Those and some of the barramundi we fillet for the local markets. So you can get our fish at Greenfields Market, Cuskers, Atkins, River Valley, and then up at the Monadnock Co-op. So we have a small part of our production we push into the local market because that's important to us.
Where are these live markets that these fish are ending up?
Boston, Toronto, Vancouver, New York City are all our biggest markets.
I've seen them at H-Marts.
Yeah.
H-Mart's a very famous Asian market.
But it's part of what makes going there, like, not that you shouldn't be going to local fish markets, because you should, but, like, it's part of what going there means. Like, you're getting something super fresh. It was just killed. Like, you know the quality of the fish that you're getting because you can see it moving around before you end its life and take it home to eat.
Tell us what barramundi tastes like for people who might not be familiar with this type of fish.
So it's a pretty mild flavored white fleshed fish. If you're not big into the fishy flavors, it's not a very challenging fish, which is great. Since it doesn't have a lot of strong flavors of its own, it can take on a lot of different sauce flavors, and it's really flexible in that way. It has a very high oil content for a white fish. It holds up to cooking pretty well and doesn't get dried out that easily. So
Yeah.
It's a little creamy, and the texture's kind of in between flaky and thick, like you would get in something or like a mahi-mahi. Like, the texture's really, like, medium. It is really good for people who, like texture-wise aren't necessarily into fish, too, but, like, the oil gives it this nice creamy consistency on the tongue. It's really nice.
How do you cook it, Khalees?
I haven't in a minute. But this is one of the ones where, like, I don't like to do a lot to it because the flesh is it's delicate, but it's got this nice freshness to it. So if you don't do a lot to it, it's actually really, really nice. Little salt and pepper and flour, like, quick dredge. Call it done.
How do you make it, Spencer? Is that what you do? Or are you just so sick of eating this fish you never have it again?
No, I do eat it. So it's just salt and pepper, really, and I usually pan fry it if I'm doing fillets. The other way I really like it is the whole fish. So a lot of our customers are going to make a whole fish preparation, and that's usually sauces like ginger garlic sauces, steamed with ginger.
With soy and ginger.
Yeah, it's really good.
Black bean sauce.
Shall we go meet the fish?
Yes, let's go check it out.
We're following Spencer Gowan into Great Falls Aquaculture's farming, where they have thousands of fish, and we're stepping in a little tiny pool that disinfects our shoes, right?
Yeah, that's one of the good things about being indoors is if we follow these biosecurity processes, we can keep any disease out. We also have full control over anything that's going to go into the fish or into the tank, so we don't get any contamination you might see in a wild fish. There's a sustainability factor in that we know everything that's going into them system. So the fish meal that's used in our feed, that's actually wild fish scraps from processing of food fish already. So we're taking the leftovers from, say, that mahi that you bought at the store. Well, the leftovers from that could be getting turned into feed for our fish. As we walk around, you'll see there's a lot of water here. There's about 3 million gallons in this building of water, and we're circulating that constantly. So there's a lot of energy use, but we can measure that, and there is a societal impact of that energy use. Energy is one of our biggest weak points on this process from a sustainability standpoint. So we do have plans to put in a anaerobic digester out back where we'll take food waste, produce methane from that to produce power as well as heat for the facilities.
It is warm in here.
It is warm in here, yeah, exactly.
These things are from the southern hemisphere.
Right? Yeah. So these are a tropical fish we're growing indoors. The advantage to that is no chance of escapement. They're not going to live around here.
What temperature do you have to keep it at?
So these are running about 80 degrees.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go in there and take a swim with them. I'm sure you'd appreciate that.
No.
At Great Falls Aquaculture with Spencer Guerin getting the grand tour of this gigantic indoor tropical fish farm, one of the biggest animal farms in Western Mass. Oh yeah, you're gonna catch your death of cold going in and out of these two rooms.
So these guys are processing trout from our sister farm in New Hampshire, Blue Stream Aquaculture.
Tell us about the relationship with your farm here and the other farms that you mentioned.
Yeah, is it like a standard co-op or like?
There's a shared owner. In 2018, this facility was bought from Australia. This facility's been here for 30 years farming fish, so it's one of the longest standing farms of this type in the country.
Spencer, this is so different than most of the farms that we have in this part of the world.
Yeah.
It's so cool that this is here in Great Falls, but why Great Falls?
It's a good proximity to some great shipping lanes. Our Vancouver trip, we're putting it on a truck that's coming back from Vancouver with seafood for Boston. And then they drop off in Boston, and then every week they're doing this, and they come up to us, and we're right on the way. And
You're like a well-fish-oiled machine.
So yeah, this is our fish brew area. This is Walker Wrightmore. He's our nursery manager and also the fish brew czar.
How you doing, Walker?
Great, how are you?
Good, what are you making?
We have started utilizing the waste stream of the fish farm. We've created a line of plant fertilizers and soil conditioners. So we started a company called Fish Brew. We sell this kind of all over the U.S. now. It's OMRI certified, so it's certified for organic farming. This is an example of what liquid fish looks like. We don't take anything out of it. It's the whole fish, all the oils, which is good for the soil and microbes in the living soil. So
looks like chocolate milk when you shake it up.
Yeah, when you shake it up.
Beer when you don't.
Yeah, the brew, that's the stout right there. So then we utilize the fish manure. We actually brew it and turn it into a soil conditioner. So we're promoting the growth of really beneficial bacteria. Doesn't really smell at all. We've basically take the smell out of it. Good 1-2 punch for growing whatever you want.
Where can you get it locally?
The Greenfield Co-op.
The Farmers Co-op?
The Farmers Co-op, we sell it locally.
Amherst Farmers Co-op too, yeah.
And then we have an online store.
Yeah. Thanks, Walker.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Walker started the fish brew in his backyard. He didn't really get into that. He was bringing home any of the dead fish and fermenting them into this fish brew. Here are our smallest fish. They're probably around 5 or 6 grams at this point. If you want to feed them, you can.
They're anchovy size.
Like a Swedish fish.
Yeah, you want to feed them?
Swedish fish. At least gonna feed the fish. Very Mr. Rogers-y.
But we'll make believe about that another day. There you are, fish.
One of the main ingredients we switch off of the fish meal is we do poultry meal, which is poultry byproduct from processing poultry. In the East Coast, there's a lot of poultry production. It's one of the things that maybe would be considered controversial about our fish specifically, but one of the things I would say is this is a protein that's very digestible for fish, and it's a product that's out there that's readily available. I think it's much better than taking Peruvian anchovies and turning them into fish.
I'm just like being hypnotized by watching the baby fish swirl.
Yeah.
It's so neat, them like coming together as a vortex and then like dispersing and then they'll swirl back together in a little ball.
This is a loud factory.
I was curious how that was going to go.
We'll see.
I think it's just fascinating to me that a farm like this and a farm of this size exists in Turner's Falls. And I've lived here, not my whole life, but a couple years, and never knew that this was out here by the airport.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a fun story to share with folks. And then also the sustainability and the efficiency that Monty was talking about.
We are hidden in here. People don't know we exist. Once we started doing the farmers market, it was mind-blowing how many people walked up and said, oh yeah, I went to the tech school and I drove by every day and I didn't know there was a fish farm there. And I guess that's a good thing. We haven't caused any problems, but at the same time, I wish people did know about it. And that's what we've been trying to do, is do a little more local stuff, just to inject ourselves into the community and not be just that place over there.
I'm so angry at the song happening to all of us right now.
It's fish bouncing around the room. Thanks again to Spencer Gowan at Great Falls Aquaculture, which is in Turner's Falls, but I wish it was in Gill.
I'm angry at that joke, too. Friday on the Fabulous 413, we'll head to Ashfield to talk to the folks of a diverse array of ages involved with the production of Tales of the Ninefold River, which takes a look at the totality of life through new lenses.
We'll gear up for the season finale of NEPM's Valley Voices, happening at the Academy of Music Theater in Northampton this weekend, with last year's winner, Paul McNeil.
We'll get into natural wines with our Franklin County wine friend sommelier, Ken Washburn, at the Leverage Village Co-op.
And we'll gear up for 413 Day by playing games with Liz Rosenberg of the Toy Box and Amherst.
Which is my favorite, especially after this week and inundating your family with them.
Yeah, we play lots of games. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.